Welcome back to another session of Kyle Sells Biz Off the Record. Very excited to be back. We took 2 weeks off for the 4th of July just to reset, recalibrate, and excited to be back with a very special guest here today. If you're joining in today with us, you're either a business owner that's looking for some insights into growing your business, merging, or looking to sell in the future, or you're an advisor that support business owners in their acquisition or exit journey. So welcome to have you here. My name is Kyle Griffith. I am the CEO and founder of M&A Network. We are an ecosystem of investors, advisors, and business owners that help companies in transition. I'm also the managing partner of the NYBB Group. We are a 20-year mergers and acquisition firm based in New York to help clients buy and sell their business. Today I have a very special guest that I've connected with, and I just love his energy, man. He just goes out there, he does his thing. The thing about entrepreneurship, when you're in, There's no half-ass. And by the way, this is called Off the Record for a reason. Okay, we're gonna be very candid and open today, and have some really good discussion. So today I have with me Jason Hill. I'm gonna be talking about some tactics that he has incorporated in his business, from financial expert to tech startup. So I'd love to kind of get him involved in our conversation. A little bit about Jason. Jason is the founder of the mobile app Owl. Owl is a social networking platform that connects people instantly through private one-on-one calls. Whether it's personal or business, build relationships by calling who you want, charging who you want, and connecting when you want. Additionally, he's the host of the national syndicated podcast, the Boca Raton Shrimp Tank, ran in collaboration with the FEU Adams Center for Entrepreneurship. Jason's well known for interviewing some of the brightest and best CEOs and entrepreneurs around South Florida, and he's been featured in multiple publications, including Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Voyage MIA, Investopedia, highlight his forward-thinking approach that incorporates technology. Hey, Jason, you're a rock star, man. I mean,
you forgot about the last sentence right there. I'm the number one dad.
I think that's probably the biggest accomplishment of it all.
Absolutely.
I want to hold it against you that you moved from New York to Florida, because I actually may end up in Florida at some point. But
the sixth borough, sixth borough.
So what's happening, man? What's new? It's good to have you on.
Hey, I feel like I'm back in New York, and I'm talking to you, and you're sharing knowledge with your audience, of course. I'm a New Yorker at heart. We're just there 2 weeks ago, and of course, that's where I get all my energy from. It's the "Go Big or Go Home" plaque that I have in my office. It reminds me of New York, of course, and that Empire state of mind, right? And I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. Since 5 years old, selling candy on the bus, and I got in trouble, and I got I got ratted out by some other kids that I wouldn't give them candy for free, and my mom loves that story because it just shows that entrepreneurship side of me at 5 years old on a school bus in kindergarten. And my father was an entrepreneur, and this hits home talking to a New Yorker because he had a store in New York City called Captain Hooks over 30 years. So I learned all my knowledge. He was my mentor, just going into New York City, selling things behind the counter, baseball cards, comic books. I'd go over to a museum and get free pamphlets and sell them for like 25 cents in his store. And that's kind of some of my early stages of entrepreneurship, which we're gonna dive into today, how I went from New York City to being in the financial service business still am, and then over to running a podcast, and getting this knowledge from other entrepreneurs, and then going after the biggest thing, in my life, Owl, right? A platform that, is going to make impact to millions and millions of people one day. It's already making impact to thousands, but we can't wait until it impacts millions, of course.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. I want to give you my feedback on the app. I've been using it, and it's been fabulous so far. Definitely want to hear that story. I do want to ask you a question though about entrepreneurship. Yeah. Is this something you're born with, or have you just evolved in this? Is it in your blood, or do you become an entrepreneur over time? I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it starts with the family dynamic, right? You see a lot of entrepreneurs, it runs through, their family history quite often, and mine it did. And you see it early on in schools, right? The kids that don't fit in, right? The kids that, are always getting in trouble, scribbling, they're not paying attention. And it's like the stuff's not interesting to us. And we're not lazy, right? We just don't find that stuff interesting. So I think often, you are born an entrepreneur in that sense, and your family kind of brings it out of you quicker, right? And often people are entrepreneurs. It just takes time to figure that out along their journey, right? Often, sometimes they're told to get a job. They're told that that's the safe route. And over time, eventually hits them, wait, that's not the safe route, because out of nowhere I could be fired. And then all of a sudden, you look at the liability now. Now all of a sudden, what do I do? All these bills keep coming in, and more people have recognized that freedom is entrepreneurship. Freedom is to be able to know that you, as some people say, have FU money, right? To be to be able to go on vacations, and no one, out there, you have to, sign that permission slip. And more people have side hustles than ever before, right? Especially, during the COVID days, it taught everyone you only live once, and your job is not as secure as you believe. It could be gone overnight, and you better, have a skill set that you could turn on income instantly. And that's where entrepreneurship comes into play.
The funny thing about I was thinking back to my school days. All of my friends and all the kids in school that was causing the most trouble are the most successful business people. Just kind of wired differently. From a young age, hey, I'm not going to follow rules. I'm going to blaze my own trail. And you do have to have a foundation and get educated and do research and practice your craft, and so there's some discipline there. But it's always the crazy folks that kind of think outside the box and do their own thing. So that's interesting. I love your story. So I want to talk a little bit about your journey. Maybe you could probably share with everyone that's listening. And by the way, you have a lot of fans, man. We have Jenna, Marilyn, welcome. Michael, who else we have here? Winnie, what's happening, Winnie?
Awesome.
Chad, Jose. So you have some folks that are coming here to support you. And by the way, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. We'd be happy to answer them throughout the show. Actually, at the tail end of the show, we'll get to the questions, but appreciate you joining us. So we are streaming live on multiple platforms. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, obviously, YouTube, and Twitter. So definitely put your comments and your questions. We'll get right to you. So back to you, Jason. Can you share about your journey from the financial sector to launching a tech startup, the Owl App? Just kind of share how that came about.
It's so easy, right? You just go from financial service business, and then you just hire somebody you get a random LinkedIn message for that could build apps. And then all of a sudden, boom, you got an app within 3 weeks, right? And it's only a few $1,000s, and everyone just joins your platform, and you become the next Facebook, right?
Yeah, overnight success, right?
Isn't that how it appears, right?
Yeah. They don't know what happened before that, what led to. I like to think of success as a journey. It never really ends. It's just you're going from one milestone to the next, right?
Absolutely. Well, the good news is I am, running 100+ miles an hour right now, and people know that, that are close to me, that, I am not successful with Owl right now. You're right. I'm successful what it appears to be, right? They see these videos, they see a lot of people cheering me on. But I mean, as an app that is a marketplace style where, it takes two people to jump on a call, of course, right? We are very far from getting to where we have to be. So it's really cool to have this interview, because a lot of people, immediately think oh my God, you're the founder of Owl. You have so much success. But as you know, that edge is, close to, having to shut down at times, right? Because it's so expensive to build an app and maintain an app, and the amount of critics you have, and the App Store, the Google Play Store, the regulations, and but let's back up, to answer your question. Just want the audience to really have a real life, understanding that we're not there yet, and it's important to know that, and not put this fake facade up that all of a sudden oh yeah, we're worth $1 billion. Nope, we're not there, right? So let's start with the early days, right? I was raised in New York in a town called Port Washington. Was raised, mother, father, two siblings, and just always learn from family, learn from everyone around me. Education is very important to me. Went to University of Delaware with finance degree, came back, joined the financial service business, and had to do it on my own, right? I learned from other professionals that were the best in the business, and I took little pieces of everyone. and I made it my own. And I hustled to build clientele. Right, when you're in the financial service business, 99% of people fail in their 20s. Right, and what I had to do is sacrifice, and that's going to be a key point on today's podcast. Is I had to sacrifice not going out in New York City when I want to go out with my buddies for happy hour on Thursday nights and Friday nights, and they would literally come home on a Saturday. They would come home drinking all night on Saturday morning, cold calling, right, lifting that phone up. Hi, this is Jason Hill. I met you, at the police precinct. I wanted to set up a meeting with you. Worked with a lot of police officers and firefighters my first couple of years in the industry. And I had to hustle, literally went to every single borough in New York City, went to every single police station, every single firehouse. As you know, that, doesn't always come with the nicest neighborhoods, right? Some of these are absolute shitholes, and pretty much you have to go into areas where you feel very uncomfortable very early in the morning. And then you look back in history, I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, probably shouldn't have done a lot of that stuff. That was kind of dangerous. Thankfully it was 6:30 in the morning often, because that's where tour changes happen for police officers. But it was just my learning lesson. I grinded so hard and sacrificed so much to get to the point I am today. Right. And after a long time in the business, after 10 years of success, building up a team of 5 financial professionals, I moved to Florida. And that was in 2017. And everyone thought I was crazy. Like, why are you moving to that state? That's for retirees, Jason. You're in your 30s, just had 2 kids, right? Most people move to Long Island, New Jersey, Westchester. I moved to Florida. And I'm like, it's 6 borough, guys. I was like, technology at your fingertips. I'm like, what's the difference? You just fly back on JetBlue for $200 and I run a bunch of meetings. And I did that. I sacrificed my income. Of course, marketing in the financial service business is all the people that face-to-face atmosphere. And I just hustled, and I just made it work. And then all of a sudden, fast forward, I started the Shrimp Tank when I moved down here. And everyone said I was stupid. Why are you starting a podcast? You're a financial advisor, Jason. But I saw the writing on the wall. It's a connection tool. When you network with people through a podcast and you interview them, they open up to you. And when we do it in person, and really get to know our individuals coming on our show, I just knew that I was onto something special. The Shrimp Tank's a franchise in 10 cities. I was one of the earlier ones to start in the franchise, and we partnered with the FEU College of Business with entrepreneurship. So there's a great connection, you and I, because I've interviewed over 300 entrepreneurs. I've learned from the best out there how they run their business, either starting from scratch or buying a franchise or merging and taking, a $20 million, business and making a $100 million business because of the merge and the talent skills, of course. But then I got the itch when COVID hit. I said, this is my time to shine. Everyone calls me a super networker because I do these interviews and I'm like, you got to talk to this person. You got to talk to that person. And then also I'm like, wait a second, there's a huge problem. Everyone wants to talk to one another during COVID, but no one knows how. There's too much friction. We message each other on LinkedIn, but they're like, it's awkward. Like, hey, Kyle, are you up at 8 o'clock in the morning? Are you up in 8? Like, why is Jason calling me on his drive to work today? It's like, you see a call, you're like, what the hell? Is something wrong? Literally, that's what people would say, something wrong. I was like, there's nothing wrong. I want to call you, Kyle. I'm driving to work. I need to bullshit with somebody. And that's where the trigger went off. I was like, with the lever, number one, it's too hard to talk to your friends. It's too hard to network one-on-one today. The other lever, the rise of the solo entrepreneur during COVID, right? The Great Recession, the writing was on the wall. I knew that in advance through the Shrimp Tank after interviewing 300 people. I said, we need to build a technology, just very simple, to connect better over audio calls. They could be video calls as well one day, but just a simple piece of connecting easier, because we've gotten so far in the other direction with texting and messaging through apps, and we all have like 100 message inboxes today, especially once you own a couple brands. It just multiplies those inboxes, and people have lost the ability to build meaningful relationships through these inboxes. They have the ability, but it's harder. They let a lot go through where it could be a meaningful connection. And I think Owl is just the perfect tool, because it now enables you to put your hand up and say, hey, I'm available. And I say, oh, look, Kyle's available. I saw you go live today at like 7:45 a.m. I knew we were on the show today and I wasn't ready to call you, but if I was in my car, I would have just called you and said, what's up, Kyle? So you were live, let's chat business and let's network together. So just Owl gives that at your fingertips to either network or, ready for this, if I want to pick your brain, about selling my financial service business. Hey, Kyle, look, Owl's about to blow up. I'm doing too many things. Can you give me some tips? I want to open up, the behind the scenes of my financial service business. I need to sell it. Help me out. Right. So it goes both directions, either getting the knowledge from someone, where you can pick their brain about a topic quickly. We're all sick of Google searching stuff and like spending hours on articles that are 4 years old that Google ranks high, or watching a YouTube video and you're like, the answer is at the 22nd minute, not the 32nd point of the video. So Owlogist is like the good old, like, let me call the expert, right? Why am I wasting time? And I'm willing to spend.
Let me ask you a question, Jason. Before I ask my question, actually, I'm just taking some notes here, and I've highlighted, sacrifice, right? The sacrifice you made to move from New York, Florida, taking time away from your family to start a new venture. You started your podcast, which actually was you were ahead of your time when you got involved in the podcast, and the amount of knowledge that you gained from your guests. Like, I'm learning from you right now, right? So it's a knowledge transfer, and you're sharing what you've learned over the years through the podcast, right? The grind. And, this past, due to COVID, obviously COVID, a lot of bad things happened, but what the good that came out of it, you mentioned, was the rise of the entrepreneur. There were more businesses started during COVID. And one thing I always love to talk about is that, unfortunately, a lot of people actually lost their jobs, right, during that period of time. But it has created like a trigger effect, like, hey, you know what? I need to control my own destiny, right? I need to control my own financial situation and have some independence and liberty for what I want to strive for my family. So as opposed to having an employer dictate, okay, well, you can't come in now, business is slow, I'm going to lay you off for a time frame. We're seeing a lot of folks became entrepreneurs, and Owl app is one of them, have been birthed out of the COVID time period, right? So I always share with folks that, hey, there's a lot of ways to be in entrepreneurship. You either start your own business, you either buy one, or you partner with a company and help them build their business and create some equity and business through that. So I love your story.
Thank you.
I just want to break down a little bit what you shared. I do want to get into the Owl app. I want to hear if you could explain the concept behind it and what I'm getting from your conversation, what I learned. Because for me, initially, when I joined the app, I think I joined initially about a year ago. When did you launch the app, by the way?
We officially, where people can pay real money and make real withdrawals, was June 7th, 2022. So we just hit our anniversary last month.
So that's around the time where I joined. I still wasn't fully understanding the concept. And I can relate to you because on LinkedIn, everybody wants to connect, right? You want to, people send requests to connect, but then it stops there, right?
Yeah.
And then as a business person, you don't want people just calling you, because I'm at a point in my career, I don't take unannounced, unplanned calls. I work by a schedule 1,000%. I don't pick up calls if it's not on my calendar, unless it's family or the doctor calling me, I'm going to answer, right? So I like the fact that I can actually schedule, okay, I'm going to block out office hours, right? I'm going to go live for the next 30 minutes, next hour, and you can call me. So I do like that. But maybe you can share with the folks the concept behind Owl app and how it works.
Yes. To start out with, I'm going to compare New York City taxis to when Uber launched, right? When it first started and someone said, hey, instead of, going like this and hailing out down a taxi, or the good old days, hey, I got to get to the airport and I have to call a taxi, right? Everyone said Uber made no sense, right? You're like, yeah, I get it, but like, are they really helping us that much? Big deal. You hit a button and somebody comes to pick you up and some random driver picks you up, right? Like, that sounds weird. Like, why would I get in the car with a random driver? And then all of a sudden you do your first Uber drive, right? And you do it and you're like, oh my God, like I see their rating. I see all the positive comments and reviews that individual left, that have used that Uber driver. And then all of a sudden, it just clicked. Like, you could leave a tip on the spot. If you leave your keys in the car, you know whose car you were in. And all of a sudden it also makes the passenger accountable, because if they're cursing out the Uber driver, right, all of a sudden you're like, boom, like that person's going to get denied from using Uber again. Well, we just built that same technology and holding both parties accountable on conversations. And that is the first switch, right? When you just talked about you're scheduling all your meetings, well, when it comes to networking, you take a networking meeting after you're on LinkedIn and someone responds, they jump on to a Zoom meeting with you. and they say something inappropriate, are they held accountable, Kyle?
No.
No, they go right back, and there's like, it's a number game. They'll go and keep using LinkedIn and trying to make more meetings. They'll try to solicit you. They lied on the message, what the conversation was supposed to be about, right? They're not getting a review after a Zoom meeting. So that's problem number one. The next, when you look at, just the Zoom meeting, if you did a good job, and that person wants to tell the world, are they able to tell the world after a Zoom meeting, like, hey, Kyle's the man? No, it has to be one-offs. It has to be like verbally texting someone, or they have to go out of their way to do a social media post, right? So right off the bat, the reason why I bring up Uber to Owl is like, no one understands it until they try their first call. And the second they try that first call, like you just said, you didn't get it, and then you're like, you're just like, holy shit. I understand why office hours make sense, where I could set myself available to my audience for an hour a week, and then the people who are dying to speak to me call in, right? So even though it's not a scheduled call, it's a scheduled time for you to let your audience speak to you. And then they value you because they're paying for whatever price you're listing. And of course, you have to have a reasonable price, what your market value is. Maybe it's $1 for 10 minutes of your time, maybe it's $1,000, but it doesn't matter. Your audience, out there who is willing to pay that price, is going into the app during that time period and chatting with you. And we're going to talk a little bit deeper into how it works, of course.
And I love how you broke that down. The other problem that it had solved for me and for others that are using the app, you always have folks that want to pick your brain, right? They want to, hey, Jason, I saw you started a new company.
Yep.
Can you share with me about your story? And I'm starting a business, or you're
Sure.
an author, you wrote a book, people are picking your brain. How did you get published and so on?
Sure.
And I have people reaching out, hey, Kyle, I know you help people sell businesses. Can you help me? And
yes.
you want to make yourself available to help folks, but now you can actually get paid. You're not making any big money over it, but now you're getting some compensation for your time. This is my office hours between 10 and 11. Let's hop on a call. So I love that. I just want to segue a little bit back to the business aspect of things, and maybe you can share how joint ventures and collaborations has played a role in your journey with Owl, like getting the word out. And I know you have some ambassadors and so on that support you and the app. Like, kind of talk about how you launched and what business tactics you've used to grow your app.
Yeah, that's very important, right? Going back to my sacrifice in my 20s in the financial service business, there are sacrifices that come along the way with a mobile app, right? Immediately, everyone out there, sees the apps like Instagram, Facebook, and recently Threads. They launched and have 100 million users in a week, right? It's crazy. And they think, well, I could have the next app, and all I got to do is create, this idea on paper, build it, and then everyone's going to come. Well, that's not true, right? The first issue with apps, very expensive to build, right? Most apps like Owl that are marketplace style cost hundreds of thousands or millions to build. And then after that, it goes into the App Store. And then how do you get someone to go to the App Store, download it, go through all the steps of creating a profile? They're sharing their data. And then after that, once they're in the app, creating a profile, like it does look like on LinkedIn, like a headshot, a bio, and redo all that. Some people copy and paste it, of course, but there's a lot of steps, and most people today, have become kind of, like another app, right? Like that's the common, look, it sounds cool, but I got too much. I don't want to get, involved with another app that's probably not going to be in business in 3 months, right? Because everyone knows most apps are out of business, within a year. And the number one reason is they run out of money, right? I'm a financial service pro, right? Why do they, not make it? Is they build it saying, well, I'll get half the way in and then I'm going to raise capital. And they go to angel investors, they go to friends and family. And you know what they find out when they go to that group? Come back when you have some traction, when we see some profit, some revenue. Right now, this is a great idea, but it's not a business. And that's the disconnect. And they think that someone out there is going to be like, but it's going to be a unicorn. They've heard that a million times, and they know, it's just like throwing a dart at a dartboard when it comes to these apps that will become a unicorn. You know how many people shut down Uber, right? I mean, Gary Vee, is one of the most notable people who said no to that deal, right? And he talks about a lot of deals he shut down. But the point is like, when it comes to app, is like, make sure you have a long runway. Whatever it costs to build, it's going to cost the exact same amount to maintain or more. And that's the part people don't see. It's like, well, if I build it, I'll deal with it later because I'll get funding. You're not going to get funding most likely. And that's why 99% fail. Then the hardest part I've ever been through, Kyle, talking about sacrifice, is building the community from the ground up, right? How do you go from 0 downloads to 100? The hardest thing in my entire career has been going from 0 to 100. Yeah, I'll say that again, to 100 downloads. Harder than being a financial advisor, in my 20s with 0 clients. It was the hardest thing. And you might think like, how is that possible? You have 100 of podcast guests that you could text. You have all these contacts. And you may, do you understand why, Kyle? You like, what comes to mind?
Well, people, they want to, like, you go to your original point, people want to see traction. They want to see, what have you done? Like, they want to see some success first before they buy in, right?
Yeah.
They want to see other people as well. They want to, okay, well, why are there only 1 download, right? But at least you have 100, at least there's 100 people that have tried and tested the app. So,
well, it's just hard. You text people and they're like, okay, I'll download it, but they don't download it. Yeah. Right? Because, and I'll explain why, you have to be in a beta environment through an app called TestFlight. TestFlight is run by Apple. It's not user friendly. And then after TestFlight, you then download the real app, through their testing development software. It's made for developers. And you have to go through there to then launch in their real app store, because you wouldn't be ready. You get a lot of negative reviews if you launch with a lot of bugs. So all of a sudden you launch in that environment, you're like, oh my God, like everyone's having trouble getting to the app. There's so many steps. Then you have to reword your copy with pictures and get it easier. But you keep annoying people. You keep saying, hey, can you try it now? Hey, can you do me a favor? And they just don't care. And then they get in the app, there's no one there, right? It's a blank screen. It looks really cool. Hey, this is cool. You built this. I'm like, go. And then I have to schedule meetings. I had to say, Kyle, tomorrow, can you go on Zoom and we're going to schedule it. And during the Zoom, we're going to take a break and then we're going to go on Owl and we're going to call each other, right? But then there's bugs because you just had the first version of it. And then before you know it, you're like, oh my God, I forgot to build like certain functionality that, I thought I knew should be there. It's like, no, this is the MVP. This is the basic product. And then you realize like, this is going to only hold 100 people. It's not ready for thousands of people. It didn't matter. Couldn't market to 1,000 people if I tried during those times. So at the end of the day, it's like the hardest thing was getting 0 to 100. And then the next challenge, 100 to 1,000 in the beta environment. And in the beta environment, we got to around 1,000 people with the help of our community. Like you mentioned Laura earlier, who is in Clubhouse a lot. She helped me get from 100 to 1,000, talking in rooms, letting Laura Bernard, for everyone wondering last name. So what happened is I relied on friends. I see Arun in the chat. Arun's my neighbor. And he was, working on his next franchise, Body 20 at the time. So he had more time off while he moved from Jersey to Florida, and he helped call people. He's like, hey, I'll call them. I text them like, hey, can you call this person? They're live, and what ended up happening is I stopped everything what I was doing, Kyle, when I saw someone go live on Owl. And live means they said, you can call me. They set a timer. And if they sit there and no one calls them, are they ever going to come back? No. So I had to stop everything what I was doing with every new person. Like, hey, I'm the founder of Owl. And eventually,
I actually like that, that you took the time to call, like you called me when I joined. And that's actually because a lot of people kind of stay and hide behind the software, to hide behind the tech, but you were pretty active reaching out to folks.
I have the highest call volume on the platform to this day, over 1,200 reviews. And the reason why is I would just stop everything. I'm married, 2 kids. I literally would see someone go live. I'm swimming in my pool. I'd literally jump out like, Julie, I got to call someone. There's someone live. Because there was only back in the day, like 2 people live, 4 people live, right? And it's a platform where, if people don't get calls, they're like, this is cool technology, but look, no one's calling me. Like, I see the value, but I'm going to come back later. And then you start seeing that rotation of like one day, like you said, a year ago, used it and now you're like, wow, now it's an active marketplace. There's plenty of people to call. So the hardest part was just doing it until it could sustain itself. Right. Until the night I went to bed, 11 o'clock at night. I'll never forget it. I'm sleeping with my wife, about to go to bed. I see someone go live, and then I see another person go live. And then when you're on a call, it goes from green available to red. And I see them drop down that, they're not available, and their profile show red. And that was the moment that like all the hard work paid off, Kyle. It was like that. Wow, it's happening.
Hey, this is working. This is working.
It's working. It's like that first one. I'll never forget it. And that's when I know, well, this is simple. If 2 people are having a conversation, I don't care about all the bells and whistles and BS everyone tells me, the critics. What's going to happen with the impact that is going to be made when two people speak? Because there's going to be podcast collaborations. There's going to be book collaborations, in-person dating, even relationships. People are going to get married after talking an hour because it's quite simple. Simple things scale at the end of the day. I've
Right.
learned through my show. And when people communicate, we're humans, regardless of all this AI technology and new technology coming out. You know, we always shift back to speaking and human engagement. And the more people that speak on OWL, the more impact the world will have. And that's my belief at the end of the day.
So Jason, what I can share with you is that before you get to business, you have to get to the know, like, trust, right?
Of course.
And our app actually creates that. You have, first of all, you have one commonality, you're both on the app. Secondly, you're both available to speak at the same time.
Sure.
And third, the person who's reaching out to you because you've seen something in your profile where, you know what, I see some synergies here we can relate. So you have that trifecta there. So you definitely have that going for you. If you can, Jason, can you share we have a lot of folks that already have startups or looking to start a business or start their own app,
Sure.
tech company. Are there any strategies that you've learned since you've launched app that you can share with other tech founders that they can apply to their own ventures?
Yes. What I'm going to do is also show the app real quick because I know a lot of people haven't seen it. They're not in. So here's the inside of the app. So right at the bat, that question relates back to OWL, right? It's connecting. Always be connecting. You've always heard.
Yeah,
right?
I love that. Mm-hmm.
So right here, like all these people are active and they all have a different price level. Like one's $69, one's $4, one's $3. They get the ability to set their rates, right? So you could search, you know, through who's active, or you could do a filter search and choose an expertise. So when you choose an expertise, all of a sudden you want to learn, you know, about business, you know, you click entrepreneurship, and then you could talk to real entrepreneurs that are going through similar things that your business is going through and network with them or pick their brain about any topic. And right now, as we're speaking, I could call someone. What other platform can you literally jump on a conversation with somebody, right? So that's the directional, you know, going that way, outbound calls, right? Just to learn. You don't ever have to take an inbound call if you do not want to. You don't have to, you know, make yourself available to take calls. If you do want to do that, that's where this go live button works.
Yeah.
Here's a little timer.
I go to see, like, you know, who's on, and then I read the profiles. Okay, cool. I want to learn about publishing a book. I want to learn about ghostwriting, or
yes.
I spoke with a filmmaker the other day. Great conversation. So you meet
Deontay,
some really fascinating people here in the app, and some folks have reached out. I had one guy, it just was synchronicity, man. I just went live, and he was about to buy a business, and you know, we had a great conversation. He actually didn't decide not to buy the business, but I just shared some insights on, it was a hardware store, and I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I'm liking this app already.
Yeah, because it's really simple. You're calling like-minded other professionals. We have a lot of solo entrepreneurs. I will say, you know, out of 80% of the users, I will say, you know, it consists of solo entrepreneurs. So they're all like-minded, and they're hustling like you and I to grow our business, and they get up early and they stay up late, and they want to connect. And here's that other functionality. So right here, this is the power play. Everyone's so used to scheduling, but right here, you hit this, I'm available for 1 hour. What did that do? It just told the world, you saw my little profile at the bottom go live, told the world you could call me for the next hour, and my price is $99 for 10 minutes of my time. All calls start at 10 minutes.
I need to change my price, man.
And then you could extend it while on a call with me. But right for this, you're like, oh no, I have a call that came in, right? Then you could say, oh no, I can't speak, I'm on a Zoom right now. You just shut yourself off. So that's the technology that you could tell the world that you're available, take calls. And here's the best part. You see this right here? It says Tracy Pearson is online for the next 60 minutes. Because you might wonder, like, okay, but you got to catch that expert when they happen to be online. No. When somebody follows you, Kyle, right, your audience, you have 1,000 people that, you know, have interest in speaking to you one day, right? Maybe right now when you went live, they're not available. But one day you go live, and they just happen to be doing a walk around their neighborhood. And this happened to me literally 2 nights ago. Boom, they're like, call Kyle. And all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, this person called me within 15 seconds of going live. And that happened to me. I was walking, you know, on my nightly routine is to walk, get some exercise. A new person, Samara, downloaded the app, and I know her over from Clubhouse. We never chatted one-on-one. And finally I see her go live within 10 seconds. She's like, holy crap. how did you do that? It's the
Right.
power of the technology. It pinged me that she was available, and I happened to be looking straight down at my phone, clicked that link, call, and I'm on a one-on-one conversation with her for the next 30 minutes. Show me another technology that you could do that with your audience. We're all just building follower lists and giving everyone else the data on all these other social platforms. Where on Owl, you're then getting an incoming opportunity that somebody wants to chat with you. So it's such a powerful tool for people in your shoes, Kyle. You're so busy, you're all scheduled out. And guess what? When that cancellation comes in your schedule, because there's no one I know that doesn't get no-showed or canceled on, it's impossible, right? And at the end of the day, you get the cancellation, why not just say, I'm available right now, and let someone who wants to speak to you get in there and build an opportunity out of thin air.
So Jay, we have probably like 10 more minutes to go.
Okay.
I always like to hear about, challenges that business owners have faced. I want to get to that, but before I get to those questions for you, for those that are listening, do you have an offer for them? I just put some links here in the comments where they can download the app, but do you have information you're in or offer?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have some
in?
fun. It's early in the morning. So everyone that uses Kyle's code, it is KC946495. Kyle will put that in the comments right now. Immediately when you download Owl, you'll be put on a wait list. And once we approve, you're going to receive $10 for free in the app. And that $10 is good to make calls outbound. So new experts have to charge $1 before they hit 10 calls. So here's my tip of the day. Go ahead and call 10 new people. That's 10 free sessions and 10 new contacts that you never had. They're live on the platform, and you get that opportunity before they raise their rate from $1 to $20, $30 for 10 minutes with them. And we have a lot of superstars downloading this app right now that should be charging hundreds of dollars that you get access to for $1, because we're a new platform and we have that restriction on there that they have to get to 10 calls, right? So that's the first tip. The second thing we're going to do is if you call Kyle himself, right? And we'll say in the next 7 days, it's July 12th right now, in the next 7 days, if you call Kyle, and all you have to do is after you leave a review on Kyle's profile, take a screenshot and email it to feedback@owl.com. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double that $10 and give you another $10 in your account manually behind the scenes. So again, that's feedback@owl.com. Very simple. Take it and shoot me an email. And better yet, if you post it, we'll triple it. We'll do the trifecta, the triple play. Post what Kyle, taught you during that call. Share the knowledge, because we need more people to share like the simple things that hey, well, Kyle just taught me this little tip, and I wish I would have known it. One of those type of things, right? We all have that moment in life. We're like, oh my God, I just learned something that I didn't realize the last 20 years if I did this one little thing, which I see all the time on TikTok. Yeah. And it sometimes comes out on these conversations, of course.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That's an awesome offer. So the code is, for those who listen on audio, it's K as in Kyle, C as in cat, 946495. And we are streaming on multiple platforms. The link to my profile is there. And I appreciate the offer, Jason. Forget what I was going to say. I was going to ask you a particular question.
And just tag me if you end up sharing.
When they think of M&A, they're thinking of Richard Gere. They're thinking about big public transactions. I tell my clients, every year I do like 2 or 3 deals where I feel like my give back. I want to support small business owners, smaller businesses. Like we sold a software company. The client was going through some major health issues, and we saw as a give back. And how I look at the Owl app, there are a lot of small business owners, like you said, a lot of solopreneurs that are trying to get their start. Because when I started my company, when I started my entrepreneurship journey 25 years ago, I didn't have any support systems, anyone to model after, any resources whatsoever. I didn't know who to turn to. So I've had some successes and some failures along the way. And I've decided, you know what, I'm going to help as many people as I can because I've been there. I've seen their struggles. I've seen their sacrifice. I've seen their grind. I wrote these down here. This is going to be my theme for the day: sacrifice and grind. And I wanted to give back. So I started M&A Network. This is going to be our 5th year in business. And we put together teams of advisors, education to help business owners and help them in their struggles and help them grow their business, help them get ready for an acquisition, help them get ready for an exit. So how I look at the Owl app, this is a way for me to, okay, I'm going to block out an hour a day where I can support. And I do believe in karma. I do believe when you help a lot of people, at some point, people when it comes back. You're not doing it for it to come back, but
Sure.
people have helped me along the way throughout my 25 years, and I see this as an opportunity to help. And I want to help you, Jason.
Thank you.
Give you an additional platform and to talk more about what you're doing to Owl app here. So I appreciate you joining us. So that link, you can click on that link and get the offer that Jason mentioned. I do have, you have a comment, Jason? I do have 2 questions for you before we close out.
Yeah, go for it.
So I like to talk about challenges. So when I got into my line of work, initially I got into mergers and acquisitions and business brokerage. I got in because prior to that, I've been doing this going on 14 years now. So like 10 years prior, I've been trying to figure this shit out, right? Essentially. Someone came to me and say, hey, have you thought about business brokerage, buying and selling companies and so on? And when I initially got involved, Jason, got involved because I wanted to meet these business owners. Because when I sit down with a client, I'm learning everything about them, how they started a business, if they bought the business, how they bought it, what's their process. And you learn so much about them, how they became successful. But most importantly, Jason, you learn about their challenges. And I think it's the mistakes. If you could avoid those mistakes, because one mistake, one left turn, Jason, our app could go a different direction, right? So those mistakes you want to learn from. So if there's any takeaway, apart from the major takeaways you have given today so far, if you can share maybe one challenge that you have faced as a founder and how you have overcome it. So maybe someone can sink that in and take that back with them. This Jason did this. I'm not going to do it. I'm taking it as a learning lesson to help me in my respective business.
Oh my God, I have 100. After doing Owl last 2.5 years, building it and developing it, and because there's both sides. It's the development side, but then it's the user base and the community side. So I would say just always have an extreme amount of patience and always, bite your tongue and ignore the noise and the negative comments, the critics. How many emails that I've had to respond to, and it's like the old movie, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter says, like, I'm all on top of that, Rose, and she's smiling, right? We always remember that line, like, I'm right on top of that, Rose, So the point I'm making is just, bite your tongue and always lead with, even though the person's wrong, they're like, hey, this app didn't work during sign up. And you're like, yeah, it's probably your device, but you don't want to say that, right? So you just have to nicely say, hey, try this method. Usually, we found that it works for others like this. So communication is so key on emails, on newsletters, especially the world we live in today, right? People are getting chewed out for like one word in a sentence, right? And then all of a sudden they're not the CEO, right? Because of one comment that, just blew up in a certain direction, right? So you always have to lead with just being careful. Thankfully, I learned a lot of that knowledge through financial services, right? They taught me about regulation, right? They taught me about, going down the safe road all the time, right? Because all it takes is one screw up and your whole platform's gone. It's removed. And we learned that through business. One simple thing, and you're like, but how come, Donald Trump gets away with all this stuff? You're like, you ain't effing Donald Trump. Guess what? And at the end of the day, comedians get away with certain things because they're comedians, right? But when you're a business professional running a platform, you have to always take the high road. So my advice is always just like an extreme amount of patience and ignore a lot of the noise of every mentor telling you how they would have done it, right? I'll say that again. Every mentor telling you how they would have done it and how you're failing. Every freaking person has told me, a different method and how easy it is to point holes. How easy it is to point holes in a business, and I'm like, well, that's interesting. Like you have to get to that first step, first. And like, also
actually liking people, that just fires me up. And I like that positive criticism, especially with a startup, right? Just poke holes in my enterprise, poke holes in my business. Tell me, because you talk about going through beta, right? So
Sure.
let's get all these tweaks fixed in the first
Sure.
in the first round.
Yes,
But some
and
people
actually,
are
I
doing
see
it.
someone in the audience, John Wensveen. He runs the Levan Center of Innovation. Love that place. He's an entrepreneur himself, and he went into the school system that has more red tape than anyone. He said, "I'm only doing this. You remove the red tape BS, right?" And he
Right.
created the coolest incubator in the whole world, the Levan Center of Innovation. We launched their OWL, our launch event on June 7th last year in 2022. You saw these photos of us. But they bring the right mentors, the mentors that are in business right now, not the mentors that
Who is that? I'm
20
trying to find his
years
name.
ago.
Who's
John
that?
Wensveen. John Wensveen is in
he
the
in the chat?
comments. Yeah, he's in the chat. I don't know if he's in your chat or my chat, which
Okay.
LinkedIn screen I'm looking at right now. But bottom line is, like, get the mentors that are in the business now. Sometimes technology has advanced so quickly that the mentors you're getting just don't understand apps, how long it takes to get X amount of downloads, how long it takes to build a community, right? They're like, you should be at way more downloads right now than what you're at. I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, you're giving me advice on, like, you know, how to do it. I was like, you only have like 2,000 LinkedIn connections and you're telling me like I should be at like 1 million downloads. I'm like, you can't even get 1 million LinkedIn connections and you're telling me you're the guru of marketing. You see what I'm saying? The disconnect.
So
You know,
it's like the dentist with bad teeth, right? Or the shoemaker with a hole in his shoe, right?
Yeah. So what I just say is, like, you know, be careful. Mentorship is dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, because what I've learned from being through 2 incubators and having all these entrepreneurs always around me, everyone is so quick to judge and give you advice when you're not asking for it.
Right.
And it's dangerous because some other people, you know, all of a sudden, like they're like, OWL's not the right platform. I switch to this. I switch to the video. Then it's like, you switch to scheduling. Then you switch to this. And I'm like, they're giving me advice, but they haven't even used the app. Right? I'm like, wait a second. They haven't even made one phone call on this app. Right? I'm like, I always have to like take a pause and be like, what? You know, and I keep saying, like, why don't you try my app? Why don't you actually use it first before you give opinions? But people won't do that. They just read it like, well, I watched a lot of videos. I go, that's different than being an app.
We're gonna change that. We have some awesome folks here. Magena, thank you for joining us. Marilyn, Michael, Winnie says she's on the wait list. Jason, so we gotta fix that. Get her in there. Chad is giving you some flack here. He's joking around. I still haven't found you in your office building yet. I see Jose. Let me see any questions. I thought I saw a question coming here somewhere.
Everyone on the wait list, I'll preview right after this.
Awesome.
After this,
you rock.
LinkedIn Live.
Awesome. Okay, so Amy's asking, who created OWL? You're looking at the man right here.
Sole founder, no capital raise, bootstrap the whole thing.
Is OWL available in the UK? Irene
Unfortunately, it is not. We are still, you know, you could call it one big beta, right? You know, been around for a year, but until we scale this app to a higher number and then, you know, hire the attorneys to look through all the legal, right? It's there's a legal situation and regulations when you transfer money from one party in the United States, obviously internationally. So you have to be extremely careful. So again, another tip, right? Everyone's like, open it up everywhere. It's like, okay, when you do that, it's going to open up a lot of scammers. It's going to open up, you know, potential lawsuits, right? Money's being transferred. So I just said, you know something, what's the rush? You know, you're going to start in the US. I think I changed UX design in the app too, where it's like, where is everyone from? Like, all these things take a lot more time to build. And, you know, I just said, it's not worth the liability to get more users, you know, to then come back and say, I wish I wouldn't have done this. I'll never know.
You have to take everything in phases, you know, so.
Correct.
Awesome. Well, hey, Jason, it's a pleasure having you on. I just love your energy is infectious. And next time you're in New York, we're gonna connect. Unless I make out to Florida first, we definitely gotta, you know, sit down and break bread together. But I love what you're doing. I'm a full supporter. I'm all in. And you have some Raven fans here. You have Alan, Alan, and Tom, and a whole bunch of folks that give you some support here. So, and for Irene, who asked a question about UK, maybe you can have some friends, share it with your friends here in the US. And when we launch in the UK, you already have a network of users on the platform. So that being said, Jason, are you any events coming up? I know on Mondays you have like that is mentorship.
Monday? So actually we have a very big week. It's great that we're on right now doing this. Monday mornings, I was on the news recently and we launched a campaign called Mentorship Mondays, because when new people sign up, they get $10 and mentors drop their price to $1. and give back, right? You talked about it earlier that you just wanted to give back. It's not about the money side of things. It's about just sharing that knowledge with other people that need it. So we want to create that same impact throughout the OWL platform. So if you want to participate as a mentor, just download OWL, drop your price to $1, and share on social media that people could call you. And people love it because it's a safe environment. They're not giving out their cell phone number. Right? That's one of the best parts at OWL. We didn't touch on that earlier, but there's no cell phones, all in-app phone calls. So that's number one. And number two, last year we did OWL Week, where every single day we had different events. We'll have clubhouse rooms. We'll have Zoom tutorial meetings, how to use OWL. We'll have Zoom meetups just to meet the community members of OWL. And how cool is this? We're going to do a 25-hour podcast. You are going to see
25-hour podcast.
You're going to see
OWL sitting down.
You're going to see OWL all over the news next week, because talk about sacrifice, right? I built up all these connections to the Shrimp Tank podcast, the OWL podcast, right? We are going to have about 100 people in 25 hours through this podcast. And the best part about this is we've partnered with one of the biggest LinkedIn influencers, Jonathan Palmer, right? Known for making some of the coolest videos on LinkedIn's history, right? And he's going to partner with his friends and do 4-hour live sessions and then transfer over to accounts. And in the beginning of the hour and the end of the hour, we are calling people through OWL's platform through the middle of the night and patching them into a live podcast like we're doing right now. So people really see the benefits of the OWL platform. And the only way to get through to that podcast is to pay the price to call Jonathan Palmer or to be live so he can call you. So how cool is this? We are going to take We're going to take some of the coolest entrepreneurs from the Shrimp Tank podcast and rotate them to my in-person podcast studio throughout the middle of the night, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the middle of the night. So OWL Week is going to start, with events, on Clubhouse and Zoom, and have different promotions all week. Double bonuses for certain things like giving referrals or match bonuses, OWL gear. We're doing the podcast powered by Celsius Beverage. We're going to give out some Celsius stuff that they've given us. The CEO has been on my podcast show, and he's on OWL as well. And how cool is this, that you will just get this whole journey next week with OWL, and we hope then to continuously expand, through those, collaborations, through OWL Week. And of course, you're going to be doing, you don't even know yet, but I'm going to partner you with somebody on this live feed that is inspiring as well, and talk that you met on OWL, of course.
Awesome. Hey, Jason, You're doing some spectacular things. I feel the next time we speak, you're going to have 1 million users on the platform, because at the rate that you're growing, with all the events and the promotions and the collaborations that you're doing, yes. I think the biggest takeaway, and I wrote it down here, the grind and the sacrifice as a business owner, that start a company or building a company, there's some sacrifices that's being made, and you have to be all in, right? I feel something about you, Jason, is like, and it's interesting, right? There's some people that actually can sell ice cream in Alaska, right? Or they can sell, I feel like when you're so passionate about your product and you're passionate about your service, people buy into that, right? It's like that they have that connection, that energy, and they become loyal, and they become loyal supporters, and they give you good feedback that can help you, right? So that's a feeling that I get from you. Is like, I want to help this guy, Jason. I want to help him succeed.
Thank you.
His company. And the app has been a complete 180 from the first time I was on it about a year ago. I downloaded it last year. I was like, okay. But now it's wonderful. So cool. I appreciate that. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate when you join us. Next week, we'll be back again on live here on LinkedIn and the other platforms. So I'll see you then. And thank you again, my friend.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. And everyone remember, you're gonna get $10 when you download it when you use his code. It's in the link there. Another $10 after you call Kyle and just shoot us an email at feedback@owl.com what you learned from him. And you get another $10 if you post it, tag OWL app on social media, any social media, and then same thing, just take a screenshot of the post. So that's $30 and have 30 conversations, or one conversation, call one person for $30. That's up to you at the end of the day. But thank you very much. I always enjoy sharing the story and sharing knowledge on running a business, of course.
Awesome. I appreciate you, Jason. Thank you.
Absolutely.